2 weeks of consistent podcasts, we decided we'd bring back the A team for this week. It is the Irish Golfer podcast, brought to you in association with Flowgas. Ronan here as always, and delighted to be joined by a slightly under the weather Western warrior. Mark, you're not feeling too great today.
I've had better Mondays. But it's all self-inflicted. So, hey, there'll be no violin tuning for me.
Self-inflicted and old age. That's what happens when you get into your 40s, I think.
Oh, hey man, Jesus. Once upon a time, it was just water off a duck's back. Now it's just drowning the duck.
Now it's just drowning the duck. Did you drown your sorrows watching any golf on Sunday?
I caught a little bit. I won't say I caught all that much. Watched none of the PGA Tour, but I did catch a bit of Dubai. Caught the the business end of the tournament. Very impressive from Tyrrell Hatton once again.
Absolutely, yeah. The only bit of the PGA Tour I caught on Sunday was Sepp Straka's first shot in the final round, and yeah, the commentary was just too much for me, so I decided I'd flick back over to the snooker. But I watched a decent bit of the Dubai Desert Classic. It's a weird one. I'm not really. It's strange to say given the job we work in, but I find it very hard to watch golf the last 12, 18 months. I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, yeah, in general, yeah. There's certain tournaments which kind of always stir the emotions a little bit more. And the Dubai Desert Classic is kind of one that I've just been watching for that long. It's on early in the morning. You get up, you just flick it on, and sometimes you half watch it. Sometimes you're completely locked in. But yeah, no, it's one that I kind of always find easy enough to watch. The likes of the American Express. I mean, I remember watching it last year when Nick Dunlap was on the cusp of becoming the first amateur to win since Mickelson in '91. So, I mean, I was locked in for the final round of that one just purely because of the potential for that happening. But with no similar storyline this year, Sepp Straka taking a 4-shot lead into the final round. Yeah, it was an easy one to give a miss to.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later on the pod, because I actually think he's a bit of a forgotten man as far as the Ryder Cup in September goes. But we'll start off with Dubai and Tyrrell Hatton. He just wins Rolex events. People often question the point of having Rolex Series events, but when it comes to Tyrrell Hatton, he performs his best, and that's his 5th Rolex win. Moves level with John Ram and hits his 8th DP World Tour win overall, back into the top 10 in the world. I mean, he's pretty much the best player on the DP World Tour outside of the major championships, alongside Rory McIlroy over the last couple of years. You'd probably have to say as well, like, when he wins big, and that was just another one to tick off the list.
Yeah, it's very seldom that Hatton's in the mix and doesn't win. He's kind of one of these. We've often seen it with Rory where, he might win 4 times in a year, but he's going to have 12 chances to win. Hatton might win twice in a year, but realistically, there's probably only 2 tournaments where he's right in the mix coming down the stretch. So, I mean, he knocks them off at an incredible rate once he's in the mix. But it's kind of, when you watch him playing, it's hard to see how he does have a bad week because he's just so consistent with everything. I mean, doesn't hit it a mile, but hits it very straight. Iron's very good, short game incredible, and his putting is as good as I think there is in the world at the moment. I don't like any putt that he misses. It kind of always, it's shaving the hole or it's horseshoeing or something. He very rarely misses a putt where you're going like, oh, that was a bit of a bad miss there. So yeah, I mean, it's just incredible consistency to his game.
Yeah, and when he does miss, it's never his fault, as we all know as well. But it's interesting to see him play in those events all the time, and given that some of the big names didn't really show up, certainly for the first couple of rounds, I was looking at the leaderboard, and I think he might have been 6th or 7th at the time, 71, 67. I'm just looking at him, I'm like, yeah, there's the man to beat for the weekend, and that's how it's proved. From a Ryder Cup perspective as well, it's the absolute ideal start. I mean, the Team Cup last week as well, he looked like he could be a real leader for Europe going forward. And now winning this event, he's up into the top 2 in the automatic standings to qualify for the team. in September. And obviously now he goes back to play on Live for the next few months. He'll have 4 major championships of which to impress and try and earn some points. And he'll have the Irish Open and then back in Wentworth then to try and automatically secure his place. And to be honest, you wouldn't put it past him.
Oh, you definitely. I mean, again, ideal scenario for Luke Donald is if Tyrrell Hatton qualifies outright and he doesn't have to use the captain's pick on him. But he's like, I mean, he's definitely going to get captain's pick regardless. Obviously, the same goes for John Ram. Um, you, you would have hoped that Ram would do enough in the couple of DP World Tour starts he's going to have and the majors as well to book an automatic place. But he's off to a pretty poor start. But yeah, complete opposite for Hatton. You would winning a Rolex Series event at the start of the year. And I mean, that's add that to the Dunhill from last year, which does count for the Ryder Cup points. So I mean, he's in a commanding position, and if he just plays pretty decent at any of the majors, like if he puts in a top 10 in any one of the 4 majors, you'd probably think that's going to be good enough to be there in that top 6. But a perfect ideal scenario, again, we said we're going to get to it later on, but Sepp Straka winning in the States is another good one for Donald. That's exactly what you want. Straka obviously prioritizing the PGA Tour over the DP World Tour early in the season, but to great effect.
Absolutely, yeah. And in fairness to Hatton, since he's gone to Live, he's probably one of the only players. I know there's other players who've won majors and such since they've gone, but he hasn't really suffered that initial dip that some of the other players have suffered, like a John Ram has. And there's been a real consistency to his performance on both of those tours. Can he win a major championship? Because that's the only thing that seems to be missing from his CV. Like, he's top 10s in all 4, but if you were to ask me, do I remember him ever really contending to win one, I'd have to say no.
Yeah, I mean, top 10s in all 4, kind of does look decent enough on paper, but realistically, yeah, he's never properly been in the mix. And I would say if you were to ask him himself, he would say he's vastly underperformed in the majors, which again, harken back to the consistency point I was making, is a little bit strange. You'd look, he's Augusta National and him may not be best friends. He's spoken quite openly about his dislike for some of the holes and everything. It's something that very few players ever do, criticize Augusta National. But Hatton's not like most other players. He's going to shoot from the hip. So maybe his record there is kind of explainable a little bit by the fact that he's really not that friendly with the course. But at the other ones, I mean, his Dunhill Links record makes him obviously a great links player. Should have probably challenged for an Open Championship, or at least been in the mix. And you think of the likes of like the US Open at Pinehurst or at LA Country Club the year before. I mean, you kind of think that those sort of setups should be ideal for somebody like Hatton. He wasn't going to be missing fairways into the scrub, taking his chances in the in the waste areas. And when you miss greens, his short game is as good as just about anybody. So it's really unusual that he hasn't come really close to winning a major there.
Yeah, a lot of people would point to his temperament as well as probably one of the main reasons or hindrances for his lack of, any chances really in the major championships during his career so far. From an Irish point of view then, Mark, it was a decent week. It was a decent week, we'll call it that. McIlroy finishing in a share of fourths with what was pretty much a C game for the week. I think it's fair to say final round of 66 was his best of the week. He kind of flirted with maybe trying to threaten down the stretch, but there was just too much work to do. And then Tom McKibbin finished in 6th, completing a very strong couple of weeks for him, and a real gutsy par on the last, having found the water off the tee. Preserved his place in the top 6 and actually helped him edge back into the top 100 for the second time in his career. So he's up to 99th. And it's been a pretty good fortnight for the Irish lads over in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously we all expect Tom McKibbin to be unveiled as a live player very shortly. So making the most out of these couple of weeks were huge for him. He's playing again in Ras Al Khaimah this week. Um, but like, I guess how do I say this? He finished one shot back of Rory. We kind of said Rory had his C game this week. Do we think? Obviously, Rory has a lot more on his CV and everything than McKibbin has, but like, can we say that this was a poor week for Rory, but a great week for Tom? Is that being fair to both of them?
I think with the standards McIlroy is set, if he doesn't win, it's not been a great week. I suppose, given that he put in a lot of winter work and this was his first outing since November, you can, say fourth place is a good result, even though he didn't really contend to win. I think McKibbin's still kind of on the other side of the scale, still an up and coming player looking to make his way in the game. He still has a few levels to go, I think. So I think, finishing sixth in your first stroke play outing of the year, I think is a pretty good result for him. Just given that what he needs to aim for, like trying to cement himself in the top 100 in the world, and with his future sort of up in the air as well, to have performed so well over the first 2 weeks, I think speaks a lot of his character.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess he is still under the microscope to a certain extent. With there's probably a lot of people you know kind of wishing him ill fortune in these starts before making the move to live because of whether it be jealousy, be it whatever their own personal reasons are for it. So yeah, to come out and I guess finishing sixth under those circumstances is it is quite admirable. You have to say. On Rory, I think. I mean, the first 3 rounds really, he just made absolutely nothing on the greens. Like his putting stats, I don't have the putting stats to hand, but I'd imagine they were pretty poor for the first 3 rounds, as often happens. But he holed a few more in the final round whenever the handbrake was kind of released a little bit. But it really, I mean, it just goes to show how much that golf course favors Rory, and that we can say he had his C game this week and still finished three shots off the lead. And I mean, of course, you can go through this for anybody and pick up, well, they could have had an extra shot here or an extra shot there, but I mean, some of the putts and some of the chances that Rory didn't take advantage of over those first couple of rounds, like 3 shots, was so easily findable there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember him really making a push over the 4 days. The bits I did see, maybe organising the TGL and being heavily involved in that maybe took away some of the focus over the winter as well. Like, we don't know. But I think, from an Irish point of view, it was a pretty solid start. And then, unfortunately, Harrington did miss the cut by one. Bit of a disastrous finish for him, but he's back in Ras Al Khaimah this week, and as is Connor Purcell. So it's good to have plenty of Irish interest in the early weeks in the DP World Tour, because, as we've said so often, as the season goes on, sometimes the interest can wane a lot, given that we normally only have one or no players competing. So it's good to have eyes on it this early on in the year.
Yeah, it's a big week for Connor. I mean, he obviously made a couple of starts in South Africa. Was it 2 starts in South Africa, or one in South Africa, one in Mauritius?
One in South Africa, one in Mauritius, yeah. Two
Yeah,
missed cuts.
but 2 missed cuts. So I mean, it's not obviously a long way from sounding any panic alarms just yet. But at the same time, he needs to make that first cut to kind of ease the sort of pressure on him a little bit. And it should, I think it should suit him. The course in Ras Al Khaimah is one of your typical sort of Middle Eastern courses. Um, the wind can get up and make things tricky and everything. And that should play into Connor's hands, really. Obviously, growing up where he grew up and playing his golf where he played it. So um a big opportunity. And we just it'll just ease the pressure so much if he gets, if he gets himself a Saturday tea time, and then it's all it's all gravy from there. Probably no high expectations, so everything's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with the two missed cuts at the end of last year, it'd have been a long year for him already. So if it really does feel like this week is the start of his DP World Tour season. Onto the PGA Tour, Mark. We briefly touched on it there. Sepp Straka picking up his third PGA Tour win at the Amex last night. Admittedly, now neither of us really watched this, but I feel he's worth talking about because I think he's somewhat the forgotten man in some respects regarding the European Ryder Cup team. I think he goes under the radar a lot, pretty much because he doesn't really play in Europe too much. But like he's a cracking player.
He is. I mean, he was one of the captain's picks last time out, but like he would have been high up the pecking order in the picks. Like by the time Luke Donald had three picks made, I would say Straka's name was already ticked. He definitely wasn't 11th or 12th man onto the team. And I mean, yeah, he's just quietly carving out an absolutely excellent career. I mean, you go through. It's not easy to win at the PGA Tour. We all know that. You only need to look at some of the fantastic players that have never won there. I mean, yes, he does predominantly play on the PGA Tour. He might be Austrian born, but he's American. He's effectively American at this stage. But at the same time, so many players have great players have never won on the PGA Tour. Never mind win three times, and he's picked off those three wins now over the space of 2.5, just under 3 years. So that's incredible going. Yes, okay. He won the Honda Classic that year that he pipped Shane Lowry in the massive downpour. Um, the field wouldn't have been the strongest that year at the Honda, and he won the John Deere last year again. Maybe not the strongest field on the PGA Tour, and there was a lot of the big names missing from the Amex, but still there were a lot of great players there. Justin Thomas, you had Patrick Cantlay, you had Jason Day, and these guys were all up near the top of the leaderboard. So to beat to hold those guys off, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was. He did hold off some pretty big names. I suppose the cream did come to the top at the end of that, and we'll talk about the Farmers Insurance this week in a few minutes because the field there is quite poor given the size of the event. But just having an early look at the September European Ryder Cup team, Mark, the top six at the moment on the automatic qualifiers, like there's McIlroy, Rasmus Højgaard, Hatton, Matt Wallace, Paul Waring, Nicholas Norgard. Now, like that's obviously all going to change, I'm pretty sure. But if you were Luke Donald and you were offered to take the same 12 players that you had in Rome to Bethpage Black, would you do it? And if you would, how would you think they'd get on?
Well, you'd want the same 12 players in the same form that they were in. Obviously, Victor Hovland was coming in as maybe the hottest player in golf at the time. He's he's looking a long way from that at the moment. I mean, John Ram was incredible that week. John Ram was absolutely horrific on Friday. So, would he take the same 12? I guess you'd probably expect at least 9 or 10 of those 12 to be there again this time. You've got the likes of Nicholas Norgard, who continues to impress. Whether he's going to be able to continue that right up until September and either play his way on into the team automatically or force Donald's hand for a captain's pick is kind of you have to wait to see. I think I think he'd. I don't think he would take the same 12. I think we'll see a couple of changes, but the same 12 wouldn't be a bad team at the same time.
Yeah, you could nearly take 12 Danish players. The way they're producing players at the moment is right. But no, it's interesting. I was just looking through that team, and like the likes of, there's a few players who you might have thought could have been weak links, but they've improved so much in the last 12 months. Like you look at Robert McIntyre, what he's done since, Straka himself, obviously, since then, Nikolai Højgaard as well. Like there's a lot of players who've actually gone up a level since they were picked And like we mentioned at the Team Cup, maybe 2 or 3 players who sort of put their hands up, like Aaron Rai, Matt Wallace, Matthew Pavon. So compared to where European golf was in 2021 after the massacre that the USA performed on us, like there's a lot more depth than I think we could have imagined 2 or 3 years ago emerging.
Yeah, for sure. I would say Nikolai Højgaard is probably like the I would say the least likely of the dozen to be picked again, just because he's kind of wildly inconsistent. Obviously, at his best, he's probably one of the top 6 or 7 players there, just purely because of his like immense power and what he can do to a golf course when he's playing well. But it's very inconsistent, and Rasmus is probably emerging as the more consistent of the two now. But he's still also prone to serious inconsistency, as we saw last week at the Team Cup when he was pretty poor. Um, but yeah, overall, it's very very positive for European golf. Just like like I was saying, though, we need the likes of Victor Hovland back, kind of firing on all cylinders, and he's so far off that at the moment. But Bob McIntyre has, like, going into the last one, had he not qualified automatically, I'm not 100% sure if he would have got a pick or not. I think he probably would have, but now if he doesn't qualify automatically, he's guaranteed of a pick, I think. And you heard John Rams spoke about him last week and said, when he was like asked, would you like to see him there or something like that, and he was like, oh, absolutely. I really desperately hope that he's on the team in New York. So
Yeah.
again, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just interesting the way it's all sort of starting to develop, and especially with Keegan Bradley being the US Ryder Cup captain, there's serious potential to sort of have the dressing room just completely implode on him before a golf ball's even hit. So it's interesting to see how the qualifying will shape up over the next few weeks. Moving on to the Farmers Insurance Open this week, Mark. It's look, one of the staple PJ Tour events, but it's got a pretty poor field. Now, Shane Lowry is in action, but like there's been a host of withdrawals. Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele, the latest. I mean, it's pretty much Shane Lowry, Tony Finau, and Max Homa at the moment. What can we expect from Lowry this week, and then for the year overall?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, he's often played here at Torrey Pines, and it's a golf course that I kind of often think should suit Lowry. As I don't think his results have ever been fantastic there. I think he's maybe got like a he's been in the top 12 or so, I think, on at least one occasion, but he's never really come close to winning or been a real contender. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that he. I mean, maybe partly because he was playing the TGL in the opening night, why he didn't, start his season in Europe. Because again, Shane's somebody that's, we all think he's going to be on the Ryder Cup team, but that's far from a guarantee. Um, there's obviously valuable points up for grabs in a Rolex Series event. I would have I would have preferred to see him starting his year in Dubai and playing there. But obviously, it's Shane knows better than us what's best for him. So, um, but he's I mean, he was as as consistent last year as he's ever been on tour. Okay, he didn't get the individual win that he's gotten in previous years, but he's probably never played better over the course of a year. Um, so if he can tap in, and I mean, look, again, it's hard to judge anybody on their TGL performance, but he did play really really well that day, and considering that he was playing the first match and hitting the first shot in it, there's a different level of pressure in that. It's okay, it's different to tournament golf, but it's still pressure nonetheless. And he obviously stood up to the test really well. So you'd be expecting big things from him this year in general. And I mean, what better place to what better place to start than we go into a slightly weaker field event. A couple of the big names, as you mentioned, have already withdrawn, meaning that realistically now Shane is one of the big names in this tournament. He's the big name in a lot of tournaments, but for PGA Tour events, I mean, if he's not in the featured groups, I'm not sure I'm not sure
I,
what's going on.
I'm going to be raging. I'm going to be raging if he's not in the featured group, because I'm definitely not going to sit through watching, I don't know, God knows, Ben Griffin or somebody playing. But like, his consistency is remarkable, given that he hasn't had a win yet. Like, since the BMW Championship, which is one of the FedEx Cup playoff events, I think that was back in August, he's not finished outside the top 13. And then he was third place then in the Deeper World Tour Championship in November, which was his last start outside of the TGL. So, like, winning and getting onto the Ryder Cup team, I think this year would make a great season for Shane. I'd agree with you on that as well. But yeah, he knows what's best, as you said, because he's gone out on his own now, new management company. So that was an interesting development, bringing an end to his association with Horizon Sports Management. They were together for 15 years. He was picked up after he won the Irish Open as an amateur. So it's interesting. He's following the same footsteps as Rory McIlroy. I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, Mark. I know you were busy, but what do you make of that story?
I mean, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I won't claim to know that all that much about the management side of professional golf. So I'm not gonna give my opinion on whether it's a good move or a bad move. But I'll I'll put it this way though. It's a confident move. It's somebody that it smacks of somebody that is extremely confident in themselves, in their abilities, and he's obviously feeling like he can maximize his potential over the next few years, and this is going to put him in the best position to you know to benefit financially from that as well. So it's definitely a confident move anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, Tuesday night, tomorrow night, Irish Golfer will be live from TGL in Palm Beach. There's a reason why Peter is not here today. So, we're gonna throw down the gauntlet to him. He better come up trumps tomorrow and bring us lots of content and bring us plenty of reviews from what he sees. But looking ahead to it, Mark, how are you feeling after the first 2 weeks ahead of tomorrow night? Will you stay up to watch it, or will you kind of just dibble in and out of what's on social media?
No, I think I stayed up to watch last week because Tiger was playing, and it was on a little bit earlier. I think is it back to 2 o'clock again, 2 a.m. tomorrow night?
I think
Or,
so. Yeah, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Is that 2 o'clock here? I don't know.
oh no, that's midnight. That's midnight then.
Okay.
That's not too bad then, but it's no. I think it's going to be hard to get myself to stay up. I mean, the New York. So we got New York making their second appearance with minus Xander. So it's going to be who's the three?
Uh,
Matt Fitzpatrick, Ricky Fowler, and
Cameron Young,
Cameron Young. Yeah. Um, against Atlanta Drive, Justin Thomas. Is
Patrick
it?
Cantlay, and Billy Horschel.
Yeah. Horschel will be pretty good actually.
Horschel
I have a
should,
feel.
yeah, Horschel should be pretty good. Atlanta Drive have the potential to at least have a couple of characters on the team, and maybe Patrick Cantlay kind of eases up and cocks back the shoulders and just doesn't be as dry as usual. But we can only hope for the best, because we do need this to sort of get off the ground. Really, if it's just a close game, I think that will be a step in the right direction, regardless of what the hot
Yeah,
mics produce. Yeah,
they desperately need a close game. That's just, I mean, a match that's just still alive going into the singles would be a big help at this stage. Yeah, Pete's going to be on the ground. Yeah, we haven't sent him a brief yet of what sort of content we're looking for. We'll have to get the heads together after this and put our list of demands out to him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what it's like on the ground there. What's sort of you know what the crowd atmosphere is like, if there's if there's much of a crowd there. What's I'm sure Pete will probably, as part of the media section, he'll probably be well looked after in terms of catering and everything. So it'll be interesting to hear the stories on that. Yeah, be good to hear it.
Yeah, and his best buddy Justin Thomas obviously playing tomorrow, and we all know on this podcast how much he loves him. So I'm expecting to see Peter in a couple of heckles. I'll be keeping an eagle eye on the camera as it pans around the crowd.
Yeah, if he's not escorted out by security, he's done a poor job actually.
He's doing a poor job. He's just wasting company time, isn't he?
Yeah, so the so-called PGA show that he's over at. We know the TGL is the real reason he's over there. So stand up and be counted.
Do you reckon there'll be any changes made at all in terms of just how the product is produced? Anything in terms of commentary, or will it just be roll on what we have?
It's hard to say really. I think they'll keep rolling on with what we have so far. I think. Um, Obviously, desperately hoping that we get a tough match so that the the actual shots and the holes themselves are providing the majority of the entertainment. And you know whenever something's so one-sided and you know really failing to deliver, particularly like it did last week, it puts additional onus and pressure on commentators and everything to sort of come in and save the day. And that's a very hard thing to do with any kind of sport. Never mind a kind of a unique sort of format like what we got at the moment. I think that just stop bringing in like team owners to have a talk. Like nobody cares. Absolute zero interest in what Serena Williams or anybody like that has
No.
to say about it. Well, at least for me, anyway. Maybe there were big horde of Serena fans that tuned in last week just because they knew her team was going to be playing, but I doubt it. Um, but yeah, let's just let the golf, the actual shots, and the bit of crack on the player mics carry the day. That would be great.
Yeah, well, I think from my point of view, the actual standard of play needs to improve because I think it's been pretty horrendous the first two editions. Now, I know there's might be a couple of glitches with the technology. Players are flying greens that they wouldn't usually be flying, and maybe their misses are being exaggerated just because they're not used to hitting into a screen. I don't know, but yeah, I think from a product perspective, the actual standard of play needs to improve because regardless if they're hitting into a screen or not, even around the green, they've been made to look like idiots at times.
Yeah, well, maybe they should just start cheating and just making sure that anytime somebody's hitting it against the screen, it's going to be it's going to be what's good for the game. Like if like last week the Jupiter Lynx boys are trailing behind and Kevin Kisner's is getting up and hitting his tee shot, even if it's going to hook into the hazard, just stick in a couple of different numbers to the algorithm there and have it going 360 yards down the center of the fairway. And you know around the green, the putting and chipping, they can't cheat that, obviously. So maybe cheat what they can.
Yeah, make it like bowling. Have the railings up at the side, so just ball just ricochets back into the middle of the fairway. But no, it'll be interesting to see. I'm particularly now taking a bit of an interest in Ricky Fowler because I thought when he threw the flag down at Shane Lowry putting a couple of weeks back, I thought that just does not help in terms of trying to actually make this a competitive entity. Like I thought what he did was a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a big Ricky Fowler fan, as we all know.
Yeah, well, that's that. I mean, it didn't bother me. You had two putts to win the hole from about 6 feet, so I didn't mind him giving it. But I mean, I don't think it was like. I think he was because we could hear them talking on the mic, but the guys in the crowd couldn't, and he was like, just go for, just put it anyway, because these guys don't know. But I'm conceding the hole already. Like I don't think it was quite the wow, haha, absolutely hilarious moment that Ricky thought it was going to be, but no, I also would stop a long way short of your absolute disgrace take as well.
We're at different sides of the scale. Can Cam Young play? And he's drafted in there for Xander, as we touched on there as well. Still without a win on the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour. Will he get a TGL win? Will that count?
Would that go on his Wikipedia page? As
I would have to. I'm looking at his
other
Wikipedia
other
page now.
wins? Yeah, I mean, God, if you whenever Cam Young kind of had that breakout season and finished second a couple of times, including at the Open Championship. I think we all thought like, this guy's going to win and win plenty over the next couple of years. So I mean, yeah, he's the perfect example of a player. Like, we're talking Sepp Straka is a 3-time PGA Tour winner, and during that period of time, Cam Young has won none. So, yeah, it's kind of remarkable when you see the weaponry and everything that he has, and the number of times that he's given himself chances going into final rounds and stuff that he hasn't got it done. But yeah, yet again, as we say, it's not easy to win on tour.
Yeah, and we'll revisit now the TGL on Wednesday, hopefully, with a review pod of what Peter gathered and what he saw on Tuesday night. But moving on now, over the weekend, I caught up with Canice Screene, who was the winner of the Irish Women's Close Championship last year in Roscommon. The London-born girl went to LETQ school then in the winter time, and she earned some status where she expects to make at least 15 starts on the Ladies European Tour before the reshuffle midway through the season. She has since turned professional, and at 23 years of age is about to embark on her first season as a pro. So I caught up with her over the weekend to see how she's getting on, how much she's looking forward to it. Yes, I suppose the last 12 months, Canis, you've become sort of a name that a lot of people recognise now. And was 2024 the best year of your golfing career to date?
Absolutely, for a lot of different reasons. It's definitely been the most successful in terms of, tournament results and kind of that side of things, but also just very big for me in terms of confidence. And going forward, it's going to be the most influential year I've had so far.
Yeah, and you got the big win, obviously, at the Irish Women's Close. I mean, what did that do for you just in terms of that confidence and belief?
Yeah, confidence. It was just, it was the event that I always wanted to win and knew I could. But I always kind of thought if I could get past the finish line once, if I could win once, I'll win again. So it kind of proved to me that like I can win and I can compete with everybody. So it gave me so much confidence, especially heading into kind of Q school and that like next kind of step of professional golf.
Yeah, and it was a big win for yourself as well. I know I read a few times that it's one you really wanted to win yourself.
Yeah.
Because I know you have connections kind of that part of the world up around Mayo. You're a member of Cairn. I think your mother's from up around there as well.
Yes. Yeah, so my mum, she's from Mayo, she's from Balmullet, and my dad, he's from Tipperary and Galway. So pretty much my entire family are Irish. A lot of them still live over in Ireland. So I kind of chose I always knew I wanted to represent Ireland. Kind of started coming over to do the Irish like panel stuff when I was like 13. So it was definitely kind of the event that I played in for a good few years, got kind of close, but it's an event I look forward to on my calendar. So being able to win it was just so special.
Yeah, so you'd have grown up then with a lot of the Irish girls as well then.
Yeah.
And there's been so many, I'd say, over the last 18 months who've actually turned pro like yourself. So that's kind of cool. There's a good crop of, young Irish girls out there now in the pro circuit.
It's so cool. Like, especially going into next year, we're going to have like 6 or 7, on tour in like various parts, which is like amazing. And I think hopefully very inspiring kind of the younger generation to kind of, they'll grow up and see like so many Irish girls like playing on tour. And I think that will make them realize it's like genuinely possible for them. So I think that's going to be really cool to see how it impacts like the next generations.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for yourself, what brought you over to London? Because you're a London native, obviously.
Yeah, so my parents they moved over and they've lived in London. I've lived in London my whole life, but I have always kind of, felt Irish. I've never kind of seen myself as English. Never looked to play kind of for England, anything like that. So as much as I live here, I would say Ireland is definitely kind of, my real home, I guess.
Very good. And I'm looking into this year, Canis. Obviously, I'm sure you must be so excited to be playing as a pro. You're just looking ahead to it. What are the plans? And I suppose, what are the goals that you kind of set out yourself for the year?
So the plans are to play in as many LET events as I can. I didn't get the full card, but I got pretty good status. So it should get me into around 15 events like off the bat. And I'm hoping like there's reshuffles and things that kind of like give you the opportunity to kind of play yourself into more events. My goals for the end of the year my main goal is to like earn a full tour card for the next year. So like not having to go back to Q school. But also I would like to, get a top 10, get a top 5, kind of prove to myself that I can kind of compete and be in contention, which I did feel like I did at Q School too. So just kind of keep that form going.
Yeah, 15 events, that's actually a good sample size and a good,
Absolutely,
to actually do well on as well. Like it gives you a good base.
Yeah, and a lot of people I know have gone into their rookie season with like the category 16 status and played almost full seasons and, pretty easily retained a full tour card. So it's kind of getting, starting off well, kind of coming out the gates hot. So that's kind of my big focus now, is getting ready for my first event whenever it ends up being.
Yeah, and then was it always the plan to turn pro for this year, or was that something that you just struck all the irons hot because of what happened at Q School?
It was definitely not the plan. I always knew I wanted it. I've played golf my whole life. I love it, and I would hate to have kind of not given being pro a go. However, 6 months ago when I graduated, and then I kind of really thought long and hard about golf, and I almost decided that I'd put a lot into it and got very little out of it. So that I was gonna kind of go down the academics route. So I kind of looked for jobs, was going to apply for I was hoping to go to law school. And then obviously I thought I'd give the summer a go, won the close, got into the Irish Open, kind of kept the form going to Marrakesh, and now I'm a professional. So it's been a very whirlwind 6 months.
Yeah, it's one of those classic stories. Put your mind to it, and you can obviously achieve it.
Yeah.
And because I know you're big on education, you graduated from Boston with a degree in psychology and I think diaspora studies,
Yes.
and you're doing a master's now in London. So I presume the educational background is a good thing to have a fallback on as well.
Absolutely. Like I'm a bit of a nerd. Like I love school. I absolutely loved my degrees, and I always knew I wanted to do more school, like regardless. So my master's is in developmental psychology, and prior to kind of like the golf going the way that it did, I was looking to either go to law school or do a PhD. And I'm hoping later in my life I will do both. But it's kind of nice that I can finish my master's, although being a full-time master's student and a full-time professional golfer is definitely tough.
Yeah.
But I'm really grateful that I can finish my master's this year too. So yeah, academics is a huge part of my life too.
Yeah, but like I suppose in many ways you might find that it takes the pressure off the golf as well, like when you kind of start the season,
I do, yeah. I actually really like kind of, finishing around, being able to come back and just like do work, and it kind of completely takes your mind off the fact that you've got to play again tomorrow. You may have played well, may have played bad. Like I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about whatever assignment I'm doing or whatever. So I actually find that it's a great kind of way of balancing myself, especially in kind of tournament situations.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. Yeah, and then like what's it actually like going to Q School then, and going through those various stages? Because I know you did your first ever bogey free round as well, which is obviously a great place to do it. And just what's it like from I suppose, an energy perspective, and then mentally as well, just grinding away through the 5-6 rounds.
It was so we knew it was going to be difficult going into it, just like it's a grind. Like I had to play pre-qualifying too, so it's like 12 rounds pretty much in a row, like pre-qualifying and final qualifying. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the energy was great. Like, everyone's taking it like so seriously, and like the vibes are very, very professional, which I thought was like great. I enjoyed it. It was such a challenge, but like you really had to, like, your mental kind of strength was like so important, because you can have one bad hole and feel like that's your chance is gone, but you have to realize that it really isn't. If you can grind and bring it back, like you'll be fine. But it was difficult. It was definitely the hardest 2 weeks of my life, but also the most rewarding, and I feel like I've learned so much about myself and my game that I'm going to be able to like implement into like the pro life. So it was so kind of valuable.
Yeah, and what was the mindset, I suppose, starting out Q School? Because a lot of people see, young Irish girl who not many people might have heard of, and they might think, oh, it's a free hit and go for it. Are you in that mindset, or are you actually thinking, I want to win a card here, and I can win a card here?
I actually went into it like knowing I could come back with a card. Like I'd put in a lot of work, I think, between kind of like the summer and Marrakesh, and I knew like my golf is, there. And I also felt like my amateur career, like I played really well, and I didn't have a lot to kind of show for it. And it was kind of like I was very confident in the fact that like I am a good golfer and I could do this, even if like maybe my amateur career doesn't necessarily kind of say that. So I was going there. Obviously, my first goal was just to make the first cut and then see how it goes. But when I got there, I was like, no, like I am equally, if not, I'm as good as everyone here. I'm going to go and I'm going to get as far as I can. And, I'm really happy with how I finished.
Yeah, and then have you any other hobbies then outside of the golf and the psychology?
Yeah, I mean, I love anything to do with kind of animals. I love music, big music fan. I've got dogs, kind of animals, big hobby of mine. Just love learning about them. And yeah, pretty much golf and academics take up a lot of time though, so
Yeah.
I haven't got too much time for a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. And but I suppose this, from the psychology point of view, that can almost help your golf in terms of, I know you mentioned it already, if you play well or play poorly, but in terms of like mentally being able to dig yourself out of situations, you can maybe rely on that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's like a blessing and a curse, because I can sometimes feel like I know too much, and you can kind of really get in your head, and I can start being like, oh well, this is this theory, and like I'm living proof of this theory being true, when actually sometimes it's better just to kind of like take a step back and go, okay, hang on a minute, forget everything and just kind of grind. But at the same time, I think it's made a huge difference in the last couple of years, just learning how to kind of develop skills to work on your like mental like strength and grind and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been great.
Class. And how did you get into golf? I assume it was from a very young age, and I imagine your parents kind of brought you into it as well.
Yeah, my well, before I was born, my whole family did play, and then my dad always wanted a sport that like our whole family could play, like go on holiday and play together. So I have a sister as well, and when we were younger, we both learned. Like I must have been 5, she would have been like 3 at the time. So we grew up, completely around golf. Like golf is always on in our house, like watching it on the TV. She doesn't play anymore, but I absolutely loved it, and just kind of I rolled with it, and it's been really nice because I definitely see it as a huge family thing. Like having my whole family still play is like so fun.
Yeah, and were you always a member then of Cromehurst?
Yes. So I was a member of Cromehurst when I was 12. I came from a golf course who did not support me at all and did not like me playing in events as my handicap was coming down. And it was like it was awful environment, honestly. And then I came to Cromehurst and it just kind of completely changed. Like they have been nothing but so supportive. Like it's just been, I absolutely love, I want to represent them, forever. Like I love the support that they've given me as a club. So yeah, it's made a huge difference. And it was also really close to my house, which makes a big difference too.
That's ideal. And like that, when you mentioned there, that lack of support, was that because you were a girl kind of coming down and beating everybody and impressing? Was that was there something that like just that snobbiness that we all know golf clubs have had back in the day and obviously still exists? That was obviously it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the crazy thing, I was 8, and I was turning up playing with my nan or playing with my aunt, and you're at that point where you're getting better, your handicap's coming down, you're going to be out there in the Stableford shooting 40 points every now and then. And the women at the club were just not supportive at all. They didn't want me winning, they kind of didn't want me playing with the women. But there was no female juniors, so I didn't really have any kind of other choice. Whereas when I moved to Cromehurst, they had me playing in matches for them, and kind of I really started getting into competitive golf when I went there because they gave me the opportunity. So, it was the best thing for me.
Yeah, and I suppose you were lucky then in the sense that you managed to find that right environment, because there's loads of girls who are like you or were like you, and they've been sort of turned off the game. I actually know a couple myself who've been turned off the game because of what you experienced as well.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy if you didn't have like a family who played to kind of experience that and go, I want nothing to do with this sport. Because you kind of, the exception kind of proves the rule sometimes, and you kind of think this is what every golf course is going to be like. And I was lucky that my whole family moved golf club, and of course I was lucky at the people that, you know, were at Cromehurst who were so great, but it just, you know, it can't happen. Like there has to be some understanding that, like, you know, children, as like any person, as you're getting better, you're gonna start winning things, and that's gonna eventually stop and plateau, and, you know, everything kind of like evens itself out. But to not support someone who's like 8 years old, like I mean, I can't understand it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a disgrace, all right, to be fair. And you mentioned that you're a member of Cairn Golf Club as well. So have you many, you know, happy childhood memories of playing golf in Ireland during the summer and things like that?
Yeah, so my most of my family actually now live in between Dublin and Cork. So I played a lot more kind of around Dublin, the Hermitage way, over the summers, more than going over to Cairn just because it was so far. But yeah, I have so many memories, and I think it was nice kind of starting to play golf in Ireland when I was like 13, making those friendships, playing in interpros, that kind of stuff. Like I had a great kind of foundation of like golfing friends in Ireland that I could play with, as well as in England. So it made the summers, because we'd spend like so much time in the summer over there, it made that so much nicer because I had people to play with there.
Yeah, and then any golfing idols growing up, obviously from I imagine Leona was one of them, but I'm sure like being from London, you've grown up alongside so many great, you know, young English golfers as well.
Yeah, I think like Leona and Lisa, I think at this, when I was kind of growing up, both of them were just like huge idols. Seeing how like well they did, you know, going to America too, like just seeing the path that they took, like knowing that I wanted to do that. But also, I mean, for my family have also been big Padraig Harrington fans. I've always kind of, I don't know, I've looked up to him, like gone and seen him play. Like he was always kind of in the forefront of when I think of people I looked up to when I was younger. So yeah, they would probably be the ones that I think of.
Yeah, and any, I suppose, early golfing memories of watching, you know, Leona, Lisa, and Porrick doing their thing.
Yeah, I went to the Curtis Cup when it was in, I think it was when it was in Dunleary.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of watching like Olivia and stuff play, and I was just like, wow, like this is so, like, just to see like female golf be so good, and like the, you know, crowds of people watching, and just like the kind of show of it all, I was like, you know, this is so doable, and there's so much out there kind of that you don't realize like once you kind of get to that level. And Corey comes over and plays in the you know, qualifying for like whatever they're qualifying for, like the I can't think of what it is now, the Open or whatever. And I would, you know, watch him, and he's given me a couple of golf balls over the years. So it was really nice, I think, when I was younger, kind of growing up and just like seeing professional golfers play, and also kind of learning, if I'm a professional golfer, how do I want to be? Like, how do I want to interact with people? And I think, you know, that's definitely made me into the person I am today going forward into pro golf.
Yeah, and that Curtis Cup experience actually in Dunleary, like I know Sarah Byrne, Anya Dunnigan, and Beth Coulter were all watching it there at that time as well. And it's one of those things you don't actually think about it in the moment, but when you look back, you can actually see the influence that week has had on so many players.
Yeah, like completely. And like I will remember it, and kind of remember all of those players, like American and, you know, European, and just thinking like, this is so cool and this is so doable. Like they're just like me, they were just like me. And I think sometimes when we watch golf on the TV, it becomes a very like, oh, they're all the way over there, you know, they're so far from me. Whereas like when you see people that you kind of know, and you see them in an environment that like you are in, it makes a huge difference. So I think just kind of like the organization of getting, you know, all the Irish girls out to watch that week was like very foundational in a lot of people's kind of like golfing memories.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just away from the golf again, I noticed you put on your Instagram story a podcast. So tell me all about that.
So I have always wanted to start a podcast. I love to talk. And I've always wanted to start a podcast. I love to tell stories. Even if it's my stories, someone else's stories, I just love kind of like, you know, entertaining people. But I definitely lacked a lot of confidence during my college years to kind of get it started. So when I finished college and I was kind of in that area of like, I don't know where I'm going from here, like I don't know what is going to be in store for me, I thought it was a perfect time to kind of start this podcast. One, to kind of look back on my college career and kind of like process it all, but also just to give myself an outlet of like, it's okay if like everything's changing right now and you don't know what's happening. Like, this is a way of kind of grounding myself. And I was thinking about it the other day. I actually think it's a great opportunity for me now to kind of maintain this kind of like 80-20 split of like, golf is not my whole life. Like, I still have a lot outside of it. And I think the podcast is going to be a great way of me kind of like experiencing that other half, like that other part of my life that isn't golf, because a lot of my listeners aren't golfers. And I have, and I have to remember that, and the content that I put out there is not kind of all around golf. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. I really love it.
Unreal. And what sort of content do you cover, or topics that you talk about on the pod?
Honestly, everything and anything. Like, my first kind of focus was kind of recapping my college years. I had a lot of like, funny stories, embarrassing moments, learning curves, and especially being an international student, like moving over, I talked a lot about how that kind of process is. And, that sometimes, especially with social media, we see the best parts of people's lives and we don't see the really awful things that people go through, or how hard it is to move away from home. So I thought it was a great time to kind of talk about my experience that definitely probably was not what people saw from like my Instagram or something. So kind of covered my college career, covered, some fun stuff. I've done an episode on conspiracy theories because that's something, I've always loved. And also kind of covered my golfing. I've covered the week at the close, covered Marrakesh and Q School. So yeah, I kind of do a bit of everything. Everything that's in my life, will be covered at some point.
Yeah, so definitely a few Life on Tour segments will be coming up this year.
Absolutely, yeah. It's exciting. Kind of how my life changes is definitely going to be kind of documented on the pod, which will be really fun, especially because I've got friends in all over the world. So it kind of gives them a really easy way of keeping up with my life too.
Yeah, and is it a solo thing, or do you have guests on it, or is it just kind of a personal account yourself?
I do have guests. I want to have more guests. I've had a couple, and those episodes have been like really well kind of like received. So that's definitely how I see things going. I'd love to kind of get some more golfers on there, talk about kind of life and everything like that. Because it's also a really great platform to kind of give people the ins and outs of like what golf is, and in a way that they might not be able to like understand themselves, because not everyone wants to Google like how Q School works. So if I can break it down and they can understand it like in a really easy way, it kind of increases like the exposure for golf. So that's definitely something that I see. I want a couple more guests on there.
Very good. So yeah, you're definitely going to be busy this year with so many
Really
different
busy.
dates and everything. Yeah, brilliant. Canice, thanks very much for that. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
So that was Canice Mark. She's obviously a very confident woman. And look, it's fantastic to see 5 women on the LET in 2025 as well. It just shows how far the game of golf in Ireland has gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess the growing popularity in men's golf, coming off the likes of, the Harrington major season, McIlroy winning his major titles. I mean, the growth and popularity in golf has been huge during that time, and I guess we're seeing the fruits of that now. Like the rising tide lifts all boats, and I mean, yeah, our female golfers are performing superbly. They're um, we've often spoken about the sort of dearth of players making it onto the DP World Tour, and been critical of the various reasons for that. So whenever we see the opposite happen in women's golf, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's a full, you have to give credit where credit's due. Wonderful achievements, and I mean, such exciting times for us now this year. I mean, Canice was, I guess, probably like the unknown quantity for us going into that LET Q School final, and I mean, well, she obviously laid down a marker very early with an incredible opening round, and I mean, okay, she may have faded a little bit, but uh, she hung on incredibly well to gain her card, and yeah, we just can't wait for the LET to get started this year and see what happens.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. It feels like we'll be covering that more than the DP World Tour, depending on how things go. But like 15 starts, considering she didn't win like the top category available, still 15 starts is a really good foundation and a real sample size to see where you're at.
Yeah, and I mean that's what Lauren Walsh had last year as well. Lauren wasn't coming in on the same status, and I mean obviously Lauren acquitted herself extremely well. Got to the tour finale and in Spain, which was probably. I mean, she would have set her expectations pretty high, but it was far from guaranteed that she was gonna make it there. Keeping her card would have been a good first season, even if she was probably expecting better. But I mean that now the same goes for all of the Irish women on the LET this year. Keeping your card is the number one priority, and anything on top of that is a bonus, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And the girls are in Morocco from the 6th of February. Canice is the 12th reserve for that, so unlikely she'll get her start in that one. But Lauren Walsh, Sarah Byrne, Annabelle Wilson, and Anna Foster are all penciled in to compete there. So definitely exciting times ahead, and we're looking forward to seeing the LET get started. Right, Mark, we'll finish it off with the usual heroes and villains. So from the limited amount of golf that you saw over the weekend, what did you have?
Now, standout hero. There's only one man for this. That's William Mao. So for anybody unfamiliar with William Mao, he's a PGA Tour rookie. Earned his card through the Corn Ferry Tour last year, and was going pretty well in the American Express Championship for 33 holes anyway. Got to the 16th hole on round 2 and took a 13. It was absolutely fantastic, and there was unusually the PGA Tour cameras or PGA Tour released the video of him making the 13, or at least of 11 or 12 shots of the 13. It's just absolutely brilliant. He's getting in the bunker, blades it out of the bunker, chips it back into the bunker, can't get out of the bunker for the next 3, blades it out, chips it back into the bunker again. It's absolutely fabulous watching. And I think the absolute highlight of the video is that I think when he gets out for the second time out of the bunker, he chips back in. It's a real slow trickle across the green, but it ends up making it down. You can see his caddy's still down there raking all the marks from the previous shots. So you could just imagine what his caddy's thinking when he's down there. Next thing he's going, oh no, there's that ball coming back in again. It was glorious watching.
Yeah, and in fairness to him, like he did take it well when he was interviewed about it after. Like he laughed it off and said he was proud for how he battled, and it was just one of those things. But it was definitely a rare and great PGA Tour content on social media for once.
Yeah. What's the most you've ever made on a single hole in stroke play competition?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe a 10. Maybe a 10.
Yeah, I was trying to think if I've even come close to getting a 13 before. Obviously, don't play that many stroke play competitions in Ireland anyway. But yeah, I don't think I've even come close to that.
No, I had a big score in the Connacht Mid-Am, and I'm trying to look it up now, but I don't think it was a 13.
So I think you did 9.
I think I had 9. Yeah,
I think we did grill you about it on the podcast.
You did actually, yeah. I'm actually looking it up now. Yeah, I had a 9 on it in the opening round. Then I went back out in the afternoon and had an 8 on it. I think I put 3 or 4 balls out of bounds on the same hole.
Well, you still beat a PGA Tour pro by 4.
Yeah, I played all right outside of that as well. Wouldn't mind it. And your villain?
Villain, I'm actually not sure about the villain this week.
Yeah, I've no villain. I think everyone's too nice. Everyone's too nice at the moment.
It'd be easy to pick Hatton for smashing a tee marker, but at the same time, that's just another reason why.
That's just another day.
Reason why we like him. So yeah,
that's just another day. Mine is. I think this might have come up before, but I saw it this morning and I had to laugh at it. Olivia_golf, but her actual Twitter handle is @livegolf. She's a 15-year-old from Wales with a handicap of 33, and she is the reason that the actual Live Golf can't get their preferred Live Golf Twitter handle, so they have to be @livegolf_league. So that gave me a bit of a chuckle. I thought that was funny and worth mentioning. But I'd say people have seen it before.
Yeah, it did come up before, but surely they've offered to buy it off her, right? What do you think? What do you think she's holding out for?
It's priceless.
What price has she named? Do you think everybody's got a price? Everybody's got a price. So what's hers?
She wants membership on Live. She wants to join Legion X III or whatever it is.
Well, I mean, they gave Anthony Kim a contract. Why not give Olivia Golf a contract too?
That's it. Yeah, it's mad how they gave him a contract, and then Laurie Cantor has just gone from strength to strength. Actually, on the DP World Tour, I saw that over the weekend as well. He's flying.
Yeah, I mean, like I was actually looking through. Like Cantor wouldn't have. I don't think Cantor would have got relegated last year had he been. Just hold on a second. Laurie Cantor last year finished. He got more points than Bubba Watson, Kieran Vincent, Hudson Swafford, Anthony Kim, and Ben Campbell. And Cantor only made 2 starts all year.
Yeah, but even if he hadn't played, earning more points than that crowd doesn't seem too difficult. In fairness, the way they played.
No, but I'll still give him props for it.
Fair enough. Right, Mark, I better let you go and nurse your sore and sorry head, and you can twiddle away at the violin to yourself for the afternoon.
I know. I'm on the recovery now, getting the fluids in.
You're on the mend. So I'm taking that as you'll be here for the Wednesday pod with Pete for all his TGL thoughts and reviews.
Oh, I'd have to be, yeah. I'll have to draft myself in for that.
Yeah, it's an unmissable one. Right, we better go. Thanks to everybody for listening today, and thanks to our sponsors, Flowgas, as well. And hopefully we'll be back Wednesday, if not next Monday. Thanks.